All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers in today's video. Beautiful Saturday evening here. We're just going to riff and raff a little bit. I thought this was hilarious. So I want to talk about the wide receiver position once again, like we have for months and months and months. It's post June 1st. You might see a trade here. The Pittsburgh Steelers might be one of these teams that trades for a Cortland Sutton or Tyler Lockett, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to talk about guys like Van Jefferson and George Pickens and Roman Wilson, especially a little bit Pat Freiermuth. But real quick, I saw this. This was from Steelers Depot on Twitter. I didn't even read the article because there's no way I'm reading this article, but here's the headliner. CBS Sports names Kenny Pickett Steelers' biggest offseason loss. And it's crazy to me. I cannot believe I read that. And so I followed it up. I scrolled a little bit down. I think I was just like scrolling Bleacher Report. And then I saw this, and it was every team's biggest question mark. Every team's question heading into, camps, that are starting up here in the next, less than next, 6 weeks here. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who's the starting quarterback? And I really don't think there's a question with that. I think you ask any Steelers fan who's starting quarterback, it's Russell Wilson. I think you ask any Steelers fan, if they're upset Kenny Pickett is no longer the starting quarterback, I don't think a single one would tell you that they're upset with it. So I do want to talk about, a couple of just random things. It is Saturday. We'll keep it loose here, nice and relaxing. But hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. I would post a ton of Steelers videos over on this channel. For trying to get this video to 100 likes, we're getting pretty desperate here in the offseason. That would mean the world to me. I just want to read this excerpt real quick. Anytime there's a quarterback competition, that's going to be the biggest question looming around a team leading into the regular season. The assumption is that Russell Wilson will win the final job in training camp, but fellow offseason addition Justin Fields isn't going down without a fight. All right, so I guess that's just not even really newsworthy. One quick final thing before we get into the topic of today's video. Saw a Chris Godwin trade proposal, and that's interesting to me. I do also kind of loosely cover the Buccaneers because I moved to Florida a couple of years ago. And Chris Godwin's really interesting because Mike Evans is there to stay. Mike Evans will retire as a Buccaneer. They have Trey Palmer, who was really solid last season, and they drafted a wide receiver in the 3rd round. And it's important to note that this is the last year of Chris Godwin's contract. And the reason I'm bringing up this trade here is because I know you guys are sick of these trade proposals. I know you guys are sick of hearing this rumors. But myself, and I'm sure a lot of Steelers fans are asking this question as well, is it really enough? Roman Wilson's a really good wide receiver, and most likely he will win the slot wide receiver battle. The issue is Van Jefferson is kind of penciled in, and the headliners right now are that Van Jefferson is actually wide receiver number 2. I don't know why I correlated this, but basically, like, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, so I was thinking of guys like Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, 2 of our rookies that we had last season, and just kind of imagining if Roman Wilson had a receiving season. Think JSN over in Seattle. I'm trying to picture Roman Wilson having around 600 to 800 receiving yards, and I'm trying to think, is it enough? And I do think it is enough. I don't think it's enough to win a Super Bowl. I think if you wanted to win a Super Bowl, you would have, Roman Wilson would have to be like a literal stud from the get-go, or George Pickens would have to be like, turn into Justin Jefferson, statistically speaking, which, honestly isn't even really that crazy because I think he's got the talent to do it. But you need a dude like Van Jefferson or Calvin Austin III or Scotty Miller or Quez Watkins. You need one of these guys to just like have a crazy ass season if you wanted to win a Super Bowl. Getting deeper into it though, when we're talking schematically, Arthur Smith's going to utilize Pat Freiermuth so much. You're going to utilize Jaylen Warren so much in the receiving game. You should be able to get away with Roman Wilson, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, Darnell Washington, and whatever the other wide receivers can give me. But I do just, I'm still urging Pittsburgh to at least look into I don't think Michael Thomas moves the needle at all, but I do think that would be better than just kind of sitting on your hands here. We'll talk about why right here. So I was reading an article from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, and this is the first excerpt, the first sentence in that paragraph. One of the most under-the-radar signings this offseason for the Black and Gold was wide receiver Van Jefferson, who comes to the Steelers after stops with the Rams and briefly with the Falcons. Jefferson was inked to a 1-year deal with a base salary of $1.25 million, with the expectation that he would add depth to a depleted wide receiver receiver room following the trade of Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers. But here we sit at the beginning of June, and Jefferson's role is shaping up to be much more than just a depth piece. I'm not exactly sure that is a good thing. And I totally agree. I'm somewhat hopeful. And, by the way, like guys like Calvin Austin, underutilized, undervalued, underrated in every regard, right? Didn't really have a rookie season. Last year was pretty much his rookie, or it was his rookie season. And, it felt like he was wide open a lot. In fact, when you look into the film, it looked like he had a couple of walk-in touchdowns. The speed is unbelievable. And it reminded me actually of a conversation I had back when I was like a really casual NFL fan. And I think it was, I think it was the year after Kenny Pickett got drafted. And I was in Houston talking to one of my buddies, Austin, and he was like, I was saying, oh, I kind of like, what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing. I like some of these pieces. You got a lot of young guys. TJ Watt's a stud. Like, what do you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers? And he's like, Kenny Pickett seems like a cool dude, but his hands, I got bigger hands than him. And Kenny Pickett's deep ball wasn't a thing, and it led to, whether it was Matt Canada, Kenny Pickett, realistically was a combination of both of them. There just wasn't enough there. And that's not an issue you'll have with Russell Wilson. That's not an issue you'll have with Justin Fields. So I do feel confident that Calvin Austin can at least have some type of role where he's not getting one catch for 10 yards and one run for 10 yards every 4 games. So I am hopeful there. Van Jefferson turns 28 years old. Oldest wide receiver in the room. I guess technically Cordell Patterson is there. I don't think Scotty Miller's not as old as him. So he turns 28 later in July. In his career, he has 116 catches for 1,600 yards and 10 touchdowns. It sounds like pretty solid. His best season, though, 2021 with the Los Angeles Rams, he put up 50 catches for 802 yards and 6 touchdowns. So at that time, it appeared like he could be, at worst, his floor was like a wide receiver 3 rolled depth piece who's going to give you like 500 receiving yards a game. But he literally, 500 catches, 800 yards, 6 touchdowns. Like, it looked like he could be a legitimate, consistent wide receiver too. So the reason I brought up the slot earlier on in the video is because according to Pro Football Focus, he's played 40% of his snaps in the slot over the last 2 years. Well, I'm looking at Roman Wilson, and I don't know why he's not going to be the slot receiver. 48 catches, 789 yards, 12 touchdowns. He averaged over 16 yards per catch last season for Michigan. I just don't know. I know 40% is not even majority, but like I got to be honest, man. If Pat Freiermuth did what he did 2 years ago, I'd feel a little bit better. Calvin Austin, like, you have to take a lot of last year with a grain of salt because they were, the 4th worst offense in the league. They were the 5th worst passing offense in the league. Like, you got to give Pat Freiermuth the benefit of the doubt. You got to give Calvin the benefit of the doubt. It's tough. So here's my question, and I've been asking this question for months on end. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, do you want a wide receiver? Do you need a wide receiver? Let me know if you're making a move or if you feel comfortable and confident moving forward. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you soon.